It is amazing how much adding a little bit of depth of character can change a series and make it that much more enjoyable. What series? I started working a housekeeping job and ended up being liked by the family of the most beautiful girl in school. Yes, this started as a light novel and has been recently adapted as a manga. Why else would it have a ridiculously long title? But don't let that mouthful of a title deter you from checking this series out. It's basically Hematin, but good. Welcome once again to Musings by Danon. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Danon. I'm currently reading over 600 manga and light novels, and my two favorite genres are fantasy and romance. So on this channel, we talk a lot about both of those genres, but we tend to look more into story structure and tropes, rather than how cool the fight scenes are or how great the animation or artwork is. Which brings me to the subject of today's video, why you need more than cute girls to make your series good. Also, and I know it's annoying to keep hearing this, but statistically, if I don't ask you to like and subscribe, the video gets fewer subscribers. Oh, one more quick announcement before we get started. I'm streaming on Gaming with Danon as well as Twitch. Sometimes I'm building commander decks, other times I'm playing Final Fantasy XIV, but you're always welcome to pop in and talk about manga. Honestly, about half my streams are talking about manga, anime, or commander. Let me get this out of the way. I don't hate Hematin, I think it's a cute series. But the fact that so many other better, at least in my opinion, manga got the axe while it continues to meander along without getting anywhere amazes me. I like to see at least some progression in my romance manga. Looking at you, Rent-A-Girlfriend. It's different when the series is primarily a slice of life and romance is the secondary plot point, like Komi. But when romance is the main point, we need to at least see a little progression. Anyway, rant over. This isn't going to be another comparison video, I just wanted to mention how this new series that I just found is similar to Hematin, but better in every way imaginable. Okay, except for the ex-idol turned teacher who is now Tanichi's neighbor. The teacher is both super hot and hilarious. Love her. But she's not enough to make Hematin better than I started working a housekeeping job and ended up being liked by the family of the most beautiful girl in school. And I'll tell you why. It's one word. Trauma. More on that in a bit. So, things start out pretty normal. You have the aloof girl who is clearly the prettiest in school. Every day someone confesses to her, and this has been her life since middle school. You have the smart boy who sits in the corner. He gets the top scores regularly, and summer break is finally starting. Just before it can start, though, the captain of the baseball team calls out the girl over the loudspeaker. The whole school shows up to watch him propose to her, ring and everything, only for her to cut him down like the idiot he is. Our boy gets a part-time summer job as a housekeeper, and whose house does he get for his first job? You guessed it. Okay, so the setup for this manga is similar to Hematin. Classmate becomes the housekeeper for the prettiest girl in class. Quick aside, if you think about it, the notion of having one girl be considered the prettiest is a ridiculous concept. Everyone has their own individual tastes, likes, and dislikes. We've all got our kinks, and beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I think Michelle Pfeiffer is the most beautiful woman on the planet. In Batman Returns, when she comes walking down the stairs in that blue dress, with her hair up, the smoky eye makeup, and the cheekbones that can cut glass, absolute perfection. But some people don't like her. They don't think she's attractive. They're allowed to have their opinion, but in my eyes, anyone who says that is blind. Anyway, back to the point. In both manga, the inciting incident is the same. You've got a boy working as a house cleaner for a pretty girl who is a classmate. But that's where the similarities end. In Hematin, Himari is the CEO of a successful makeup company. She's the genius high school girl CEO who is also a model. Perfect in every way, right? Except there are only 24 hours in the day, and she doesn't have enough time to cook, clean, or even put away her clothes. And she's been having sinus and respiratory issues because of all the dust in her house. Meanwhile, the reason Tojo hired a cleaning person? She couldn't handle her little brother. Let me back up. Also, let me give a quick spoiler warning. Most of what we'll be discussing will be covered in the first couple of chapters of this manga. If this were adapted into an anime, we might get to episode 2 or a little bit into 3, but it takes a little bit for the ball to get rolling, and I wanted to get to the main point of this video anyway, so please forgive the spoilers. The Tojo home is huge. Atsuki Haruto, called Haru by his best friend, is in awe the first time he shows up. Space is a premium in Japan, after all. I mean, think about it. They have roughly a third the population of the United States, but they're all crammed into a landmass the size of New Mexico. Actually, that's probably a fair comparison, because New Mexico has plenty of land that is mountainous terrain that's difficult to navigate and build on, just like Japan. So imagine if everyone in New York, California, and Texas all tried to fit in New Mexico. And this family has a huge house. Atsuki notes that the kitchen and living room are about 3 times the size of the ones in his house. Now, when he first shows up, Tojo is nervous. After all, this is a boy from her school, and every interaction she's had with a boy up till now has been either annoying or traumatizing, or both. It all started in middle school when boys started confessing to her left and right. Later on in the series, Ayaka, sorry about this, we're going to start referring to Tojo by her first name. This will become important later on because we're going to be meeting her whole family, is chatting with her friend and has a flashback to middle school. Apparently this is when Ayaka started developing and males started staring at her with lustful eyes. It seemed that every day some male would confess to her. Even worse, her female friends would blame her for the misunderstandings. After all, the boy they crushed on just confessed to Ayaka. That is clearly her fault. So Ayaka has avoided love. But the most ironic part in all of this? The day that the proposal happened, Ayaka's best friend suggested that she get a boyfriend. Even a fake boyfriend to scare off all the creeps. It is a sad state of society that a girl has to get a fake boyfriend in order to keep creepy boys away, but as we all know, there are 2 worlds. The world that is, and the world we want to see. We must live in one while working towards the other. So to protect Ayaka in this world, her best bet is to get a boyfriend. But she has no interest in any boys. Her friend suggests Atsuki. He's calm, kind, and seems like a good boy. He also doesn't participate when other boys leer at her or talk about what they'd like to do to her in bed. And who should show up at her door to help clean her house? Atsuki. Now, that isn't to say Atsuki isn't a red-blooded male. He is a teenage boy, and Ayaka is beautiful, distractingly so. He can't help but have lewd thoughts, but he uses every ounce of his willpower to lock in and get to work. That is until Ayaka's little brother comes home and thinks Atsuki's a thief. This leads to a hilarious exchange with both Atsuki and Ayaka laughing, and Ryota, her little brother, eventually coming around and referring to Atsuki as Big Brother. Oh, I forgot to mention, Atsuki calls Ayaka Tojo-sama. Sama is an honorific that basically means sir or lady. It can also mean lord or lady. You use it to refer to someone who is much higher than you in society. Initially, Ayaka is opposed to this. They're classmates after all, but Atsuki realizes she was nervous from having a classmate, much less a male classmate, so he decides to be as formal with her as possible. Ayaka is taken aback at first, but when he explains his reasoning, she accepts it. Of course, her mother doesn't like it and makes him stop, but that's a bit down the road. Sorry I'm all over the place with this video. There's a lot going on, and even if I just summarize it as the events happen, it would still be confusing. After Ryota accuses Atsuki of being a thief, Ayaka explains that Atsuki's there to help clean. Ryota feels bad. Is this because I made a mess in the kitchen? Ayaka assures them that it isn't, and that she'd considered getting a cleaner anyway. You see, her parents are on a business trip and she was left home alone with her little brother. And before you get all uppity in the comments, hold up, just wait a second. When I was 12, I was regularly left home alone, sometimes overnight in charge of my 4 younger siblings. A 16-year-old can easily handle a 6-year-old for a couple of days. But if things get out of control, she did have her parents' permission to call a housekeeper. And that housekeeper also makes dinner. He cooks the food, says his goodbyes, leaves a flyer to pitch the company, which makes Ayaka chuckle, and then leaves. After all, this is only a one-time thing, and they both know it. Only, in a few days, he gets a call to come back to that house. Before we get there, I wanted to talk more about the cafe meeting between Ayaka and Saki, her friend from school. Saki is still teasing Ayaka about the proposal from a few days before, on the last day of school before summer break. Saki was the one who initially suggested that Atsuki would be a good match for Ayaka, but Saki doesn't know that Atsuki came to her house to clean. At least, not yet. So, since Ayaka rejected the idea of getting a boyfriend, maybe she should try getting a fake boyfriend. Come on, I know you've read the manga where the girl gets the fake boyfriend to protect her from stalkers or creepy guys, and eventually something happens and the two of them fall in love. For Saki, this is just fun conjecture. She has no idea that Atsuki, the very boy she suggested would be a good match for Ayaka, has already been to her house and is coming back soon. Apparently, Ryota bragged so much about how cool Oni-chan was, and even Ayaka backed him up a little bit, that their parents decided to sign up for the regular contract. And Mama Tojo is having the time of her life, let me tell you. First of all, she made Satsuki stop speaking formally and refer to her by her first name. I mean, it's not like he can go around saying Tojo-sama to everyone. Besides, running a company with her husband, she probably gets enough formal speech all day, every day, so it is the last thing she wants to hear at home. So Ayuki, Ayaka's mother, observes Atsuki's cleaning. She also notes how close Ryota has gotten with him, and teases Ayaka about it. Are you jealous about how close Ryota has gotten to Otsuki? Or were you mesmerized by him? Ayaka, of course, freaks out. She blushes furiously and runs off to hide in her room. And after she leaves, Ayuki says she hopes spring will come for her daughter, while looking at Atsuki. She even sends them on an errand to get food for dinner, Atsuki, Ayaka, and Ryota. On their trip, Ayaka notes Ryota's kindness. She's impressed at how courteous he is, how easy of a time he has with her little brother, and just how naturally kind he is. And when they leave the store, some boys are talking about how pretty she is. Atsuki steps in front of her to block their view. Now, how is Atsuki so good at all of this? How is he so mature? What pushed him so hard to become such a great person? We haven't even gotten into his karate skills, but we have mentioned how he's the top scorer at school. I mentioned earlier, but it's the trauma. Trauma survivors often become more mature. They're forced to grow up. Their childhood was ripped away from them, so they had no choice but to become adults before their time. When Atsuki was 6, his parents were killed in a car crash. He was in the car when it happened. He moved in with his grandparents, but a few years later his grandfather died. Atsuki has been surrounded by death and loss his entire life. He had no choice but to grow up at an accelerated rate. You see this a lot with survivors of trauma. Some scientific studies have shown that childhood trauma not only accelerates mental maturity, but physical maturity. Some people literally age faster due to the horrific events they survived as a child. And that is the case with Atsuki. He is observant, always keeping his head on a swivel. Part of this is from his karate training, but also because his parents were killed in a car crash. Trust me, car crash survivors are hyper-focused when they're in a car. They are always on the lookout for things that can injure them or their loved ones. Which is why Atsuki notices how Ayaka was uncomfortable when those boys made those remarks. It's why he was able to notice her discomfort when he first showed up. It's how he was able to catch Ayaka when she fell off her unicycle in the backyard. Everything Atsuki does is trauma-coded. His words, his actions, even his facial expressions. And I love how the manga captures this. Of course, for someone else who has been traumatized by boys, having someone mature, calm, and kind, and with top-tier girl power, someone who's both a good cook and good at cleaning, it's no wonder that Ayaka has started to develop feelings for him. The fact that this boy is calm, well-behaved, and, most importantly, not pushy, means that Ayaka is comfortable around him. Of course, her mother teasing her about it isn't helping. Darn parents implanting ideas into their children's heads. And to top it all off, he calls her cute to her face. He's not hitting on her, just stating it as a fact. The sky is blue, the sun is warm, and Ayaka is cute. I've really enjoyed this series so far. I love seeing romance stories where the characters complement each other. Both Ayaka and Atsuki are healing. Now, it is possible for people in situations like this to become codependent, and that is never healthy. But other times, they complement each other, build each other up, and help each other heal and grow together. I'm hoping this series will lean towards the latter, as it seems to be doing. Only time will tell. Have you started any good romance manga lately? What's caught your interest? Leave a comment below. Thanks for tuning in. Once again, a huge shout out to my editor Cutestuff. I couldn't make these videos without her. If you'd like to hire her to edit your own videos, she can be reached at cutestuff.edits@gmail.com. Link is down below. If you're looking for ways to support the channel directly, you can head on over to patreon.com/Danon. There are several tiers to choose from. You can pick an anime or manga for me to do a video about, or you can join our monthly manga club. I also wanted to give a quick shout out to all of my patrons: Waffles, Jiraiya, Marcus, Brett, Roxy, Alex, Congo, Robert Pye, Kazaris, Patrick, Tiz, Art, Richard, Boomy, Osir, Justin, Golden Walker, Captain Hammer, Sleech, Mr. Salty, Daniel, and Black Dragon. You guys are awesome. I post anime or manga videos often, or you can click here to watch additional videos. Again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all again next time on Musings by Danon.